Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritism at Noon. We are in this journey of learning a bit more about ourselves and how to go about our inner transformation. And we are using as a basis a book that is soon going to be released about the same topic, inner transformation, that is based on the Sermon on the Mount and the 13 virtues of Benjamin Franklin. And today we are going to be talking about righteousness, frugality, and temperance. As always, we may not finish everything today. We are usually having two sessions for each one of those topics. And the idea is exactly for us to have time for us to, you know, make our comments, bring our questions, and enrich even more, the exchange that we will be having with each other, right? Okay. So let us first think about the word, about understanding righteousness. So, righteousness is an important theological concept in Judaism and Christianity. It's an attribute which implies that a person's actions are justified and can be interpreted to mean that the person has been judged or reckoned as leading a life that is pleasing to God. It also means to be in complete accordance with what is just, honorable, and godly. Righteousness is comprised of those things that are upright, virtuous, noble, morally right, and ethical. I don't think the terminology is actually that new to us, right? I think all of us here, we are actually trying to achieve exactly that, to be a righteous person. And not only because, of course, we want to boost about, remember Benjamin Franklin and the 13th virtue, humility. This is not the point here. This is the point is for us to achieve happiness, to achieve peace of mind. And the more we walk towards this direction of righteousness, the more we will be feeling fulfilled, connected with the higher powers, will be less affected by the circumstances of life. Again, we live in a material world. We are here, we have to thrive, and we have to provide for ourselves. But it's a different situation when we have this understanding that this is temporary and that in fact we are immortal spirits. And what is more important for me is not necessarily just to have a successful career, but to also, or first of all, be a righteous person, gather those virtues that are going to be necessary and are going to be positioning myself in a better situation. And when we use this, because our language is and not so great sometimes, there are so much that we could be talking about into, but not necessarily be as well interpreted. Here we are not saying that, oh, okay, when I return to the spirit realm, there will be there, gold medal, silver medal. No, we are not talking about that. We are talking about an inner position that will be accordingly to what we have achieved. And yes, there will be better places for us to go, but the main important thing is not necessarily just the surroundings that we will be, spiritually speaking, even because we all the time hear that more evolved spirits, they release their right, so to say, to be living in places of more harmony and peace and beauty, just to go in rescue of those that are not in the same situation. So it's more, we are talking about really how we are going to be feeling. because, truth be told, we can be surrounded by everything, by wealthy and youth and power. But if there is something that is shaking us, innerly speaking, any form of hurt that we, ingratitude, difficulty, an illness that may be visiting us, everything else that is around, it doesn't matter that much. So here we are talking about what really matters, which is, to be in a state of health that encompasses, being emotionally, spiritually balanced. And while we are on earth, of course, physically balanced as well. Any question or comment so far? Okay, so let's go to the next one. Oh, sorry. Bible quotations about righteousness. He who pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. So we will see here that this concept is really old. It's not something that just came with Christianity or the words of Jesus. The truth is the truth, and it has always been, and is present in so many different times of humanity and also philosophies. For the Lord is righteous, he loves righteousness, and the upright will behold his face. We found that in Psalms. All men's souls are immortal, but the souls of the righteous are immortal and divine. I really like this phrase, except from the part of men, I would say all human beings, all human souls, right, are immortal, but the souls of the righteous are immortal and divine. And this is the state that we want to achieve. Okay, we may be immortal, but what is the condition that I want to find myself when it's time for me to return to the spirit world? And this is why we are, we have been trying to explore more this possibility of us understanding better how and how can we get there, and what can we do now to make our path easier. Okay, any comments or questions? Okay, Sonia.
My question is, this process, it's possible without you thinking about the others around us? Like, because in my mind, this path of rightness, it's so difficult without we rescuing the others around us. When you can see, it's so many problems for all humanity, then I don't know, I can't see myself in this individual path without trying to rescue the others.
That's a very good, beautiful, and complex question and answer, of course.
Rick.
Yeah, right. I think there is so much we don't understand yet. And what was coming to mind is I'm not going to be remember that by heart, but you can research, is the 8 steps of charity by Maimonides. It was a Jewish philosopher from the 12th or 13th century. And he writes about the different stages of practicing charity. The first one being, you do without care because others are looking, because for a single moment you just want to feel good about yourself, but not necessarily that is something that is present in you. and being the last stage, one that you actually do that because you cannot see any other way around. And if people ask you why you are doing that, you even think that the question is strange. And now that I'm talking about it, I remember that story from Mother Teresa of Calcutta, when she had, that interview with a journalist, and finally, when it's time for him to be with her and he starts his interview, she said, "I'm sorry, but I have to leave," and simply leave, and without saying anything else. And of course, he had an appointment and this and that, and you imagine how he felt. And but after he, swallowed his pride, this is my interpretation, okay, he decided to follow her to see what did she had to do that was more important than, to honor the appointment that she had with him. And he started following her, and she started walking through the streets of Calcutta. And she, according to how he describes, she gets into a place that there was, like a garbage disposal or something. There was so all those garbages that we can just imagine, in the city of Calcutta. And there she started, searching through the garbage, and finally she finds a man there. And she grabs the man, put him in his lap, start caressing him. And according to the description of the journalist, he said that it was one of the most disgusting scene that he saw, because the smell, the situation, the man was still alive, but basically already in a state of decomposition. And finally he breathes his last breath, while she's there holding him and caressing him. And in astonishment, the journalist tells her, wow, I wouldn't do that, not even for $1 million. She said, I wouldn't either, just for love. And I think that this is what we still do not have, Sonia. We still do not understand. And the more we go through this path, the more we go through righteousness, is something that is going to become a second nature. But at the first moment, at this moment, we still are required to put the oxygen mask in ourselves and then care about the others, because we cannot survive longer without, caring for ourselves, or first we have to do that, because everything else is going to be a consequence. Like I planted the seed, and it will take a while for me to see the tree grows and the fruits appear and the fruits be ripe sufficiently for me to eat from this fruit. And this is the way I visualize ourselves. So we first have to think about those first steps, really transform ourselves. And one thing I think is going to be, like, a monkey bar. There is always another one coming, right? I don't know if it's a monkey, the monkey game, or I don't know if that's the name exactly. And yes, and so there is something else that will come. So always something else that will come, and then it will become second nature. And like we were saying before, the sometimes when we hear stories of those highly evolved spirits, that they, like even Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, that we talk about him, like 100 years ago, he was offered a much better place than here on earth, and said, I would prefer not to go, because he was being, humble and respectful. That was actually Mary, the mother of Jesus, that was assigning him to a better place. And he said, but there are so many of my brothers and sisters there suffering, and I would like to stay with them. And he was granted 50 years. But that has been, like, I don't know, over that, over 50 years already, and he's still here. So, and this is what leads me to think that, yes, for the time being, many of the things that we are saying now in terms of this process of inner transformation may seem to be a bit selfish, but it's not. It is, I have first to, you know, to be capable of having something to offer. And for the moment, we are in this process of gaining more things, which doesn't mean that where we are today, we are not doing that already. We just have to look, you know, a century ago, the difference in terms of our behavior toward people and other nationality or races or ethnicities or gender and all of that. So now our mind is opening. We are having more understanding, but we are far away from fully comprehend that it will become to a point that I will not even think about putting the mask in myself. I'll just jump and put the mask in the other because our trust in God is going to be complete. Any question or comment? Okay, let's go here. So the beatitude that we are going to be seeing today, we're studying, is blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So now it is exactly what you're saying, right? So now we look around and we say, oh my God, how hard it is for us to think that we are not going backwards. And we know we're not. It is not possible. The spirits reassure us that. But at the same time, they say, listen, the doors were open to each and every one that had a chance to decide for themselves where they want to be for future reincarnations. And we have to give them this chance. And this is the reason why we are seeing so much imbalance at the same time that we see, you know, preteens shouting about, you know, spirituality, ecology, equality, bringing art to a level that we haven't seen before. We see others still fomenting wars, still fomenting persecution in each and every level. So, and it is a turning point for all of us. It is where I'm going to be maintaining myself in this path of righteousness. I'm not going to say righteousness because I don't have it yet. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't, right? Maybe I just have the letter R from righteousness, which is a very long letter, right? And just the first one, right? And so we are trying to, or we can choose in which side we are going to believe. Everything points out to us that the shadows will always be overcome by the light. We see that in cartoons, right? I mean, since our childhood, we've been receiving this subliminal message that goodness will always prevail. Unfortunately, it's not in the speed and the time that we want it to happen, but it does happen. And so having a little bit of trust and trying to engage and add our thoughts and energy to this force's energy of goodness that are happening around us is the best course of action for all of us. Question, comments?
Sarah,
Yes.
I'd like to say, um, there was, a couple of weeks ago, I was driving and was going down to the center, to SGNY. And I've seen this lady before on the streets. You see a lot of them uh, asking for assistance and help. And so I saw this lady and she had a child on her back. She was carrying the child on her back, and the weather was terrible. It was drizzling, it was cold. And she's out. I'm going into one of the highways, and she's right there before we make a right turn to go in. And she's there asking for help. And so, oh my God, I thought I was gonna, I was so famished with pain to help her. And I couldn't stop because it was a terrible intersection. And I just couldn't stop. I had to make my right. And so, second time comes around, she's there again. Oh my God. And I'm going to the meeting and praying. I'm in the car praying for this poor lady. She has a child on her back. The child had to be like 2 or 3 years old. She's out there asking for help. My heart, you don't know, all day, all night, thinking of this lady. So then the following week, I says, okay, I'm going to stop. But it was a terrible intersection. I couldn't stop the car. It was a very dangerous intersection. But I'm thinking of this lady. I'm going to help. I'm going to help. Oh God, I have to help this lady with this child. I would give her everything I had because it felt so, it was so sad. So then it was the third time I go, there was no way I couldn't. So I have her in my heart now and I pray. And I told one of my sisters of what's going on. And she said, well, it could be that she's there maybe as false pretense. And I felt so bad. I said, she has a child on her back. She's asking for help. How could that be? No. And I said, I don't care. If I can get out the carpet, I'm going to cause an accident. So all I have her is in my prayers. There's no way. And I went this past yesterday. I didn't see her. She's not there. And I'm praying, oh God, if I could only see her and give her a talk and do something. Oh, I don't know what to think of it. I have to, I just keep praying for her and God help her. And, something like this, what do? You want to do the right thing.
I learned that a long time ago, but it is still my way of thinking. And, coming from, a poorer country, not that poor, but, Brazil, and we see a lot of that. Um, I learned that we should never
Mhm.
give money, especially if there is a child involved, because we are teaching the child that this is a good way to provide for themselves. And of course, we hear stories that are genuine. I mean, I work with this in a nonprofit organization that actually uh, works to with families and children that are under the poverty line. And those people that are really in need are not the ones that are on the streets. So, but then I was in this conundrum like you were, right? I mean, it's against my nature as well to see some people that seems to not have anything and are there and with children and etc. So, what was the balance that I found for myself? I started buying blankets, food, things like that. I would always have that on in my car, and instead of giving money, I would give provisions.
Oh, okay.
So I never gave money, especially if there was child. And we know, and in Brazil, Sonia can tell us, we know stories of people that just live out of begging, and they have their own houses and all that. I mean, I'm not saying mansions, okay, but they are, and they bring the children because. Um, because yeah, this is how they touch the hearts of people.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I because of this work that I do with a nonprofit organization, I think the country was Ecuador. I'm not so sure. Okay, there was a meeting where many of the nonprofit organizations were invited and to present their projects. And there was this one that I mean, I never forgot about this one, because when it came to the time of the woman that was representing the organization to start talking, she was a psychologist, and she said that the work that they had in that they provided in their nonprofit organization was to teach mothers, parents to be parents, and children to be children. I confess that I didn't understand what she was talking about. What are you talking about? You know, your work is to teach mothers to be mothers and children to be children. And then she explained to all of us, there was a, you know, a huge audience. And actually it was in England that it was from a big organization was doing that. And then she said that there are those communities, and it was not only necessarily you know, something that we will find in that country, that I think it was Ecuador, I'm not so sure about the country. And she said where uh, the the culture of the community is the following: children provide. They are the ones that go to the street to beg for money
Ah,
because they are more successful.
yes.
And then the mothers, the grandmothers, the adults, you stay at home doing nothing and, you know, enjoying, like, you know, retired, not necessarily 100% retired, but with the money that the children provide, they will be, you know, buying food and preparing whatever way they prepare. And what happens is that this is the culture that many generations have been learning, that this is the dynamic there. And so when you come to a point of, you know, maybe in your 20s, early 20s, where you no longer will impact anyone if you're there asking for money, then you're retired. Now my time is over. Children go to the street. So can you imagine that, Soraya?
I just can't. Oh,
Yeah, I can't as well. I mean, and when she was talking, is explaining that she's going to the community, because it's not out of sometimes like she said, it's not just out of, you know, taking advantage, but you know, this is dynamic, the dynamic that I learned. Like sometimes we have this dynamic that, you know, the male works and provide for the family, right? There, the children works and provide for the family because they are more successful in rising raising compassion in other people. And so they, of course, as you can imagine, they will not have an education, and they cannot get out of this you know, vicious circle. And um, and then I remembered about this. I actually learned that in the spiritual center, where they said, if there is children involved, never give money. If they are selling something, you can buy.
yes, yes.
Okay. But if it's just giving out of nothing, don't do that. Give food, give clothes, give, you know. And so I start doing that during the winter time that we had there. I would, you know, buy some, you know, of course not so expensive, but some blankets, and I would have blankets in the car, and I would be, you know, if I would selecting, because we can also not help everyone one, but at least a few, and I would be doing that. And I was screaming already. Was I wanted to give food, and the person, I don't want a food, I want money.
Oh my
Oh, I'm sorry, that's all I can give you now.
God. But that's a beautiful idea. I think, yes.
Okay.
I,
Prayers always,
yeah, well,
let's never be judgmental,
Absolutely.
But you see, those little things here, the cereal, okay, the cereal bars,
Oh, sí, sí.
uh, or something that is going to be even more directed to the child and not to the mother.
Sí, sí,
You see?
I agree.
Okay,
But
Sonia.
even in that situation, there was no way that I can stop giving her anything, even if I had this, because she was in a terrible intersection. And I thought of that. I says, this lady has to be out of her mind.
Yeah.
She could have caused an accident or hurt herself. So there was no way I could have given her. All I could have given, like we saying here, to pray and pray, you know,
Yeah.
so they can assist her in helping in that. So I haven't seen her since. So okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you see, Soraya, it's hard for us to have to, to say that, especially when we have our motto, without charity, there is no salvation,
Yes.
right? But then, engage ourselves in, I mean, you already do a lot of things. I mean, but I mean, look for an organization that you can steadily and be sure that it's really helping, that
Yes.
is not going uh, because to other purposes, because at the end of the day, if there are so many nonprofit organizations, honest, and that do a tremendous work, and $5 a month makes a huge difference if everyone is contributing. Maybe you can say, I can just give the widow's mite. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if everyone gives the widow's mite. We will get there. We will be able to help more. And um, and, 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 and yes, I mean, it's hard. Sonia.
Yes, last week happened with me. So many kids at the street ask for money, and then when I mentioned to my sister, it's a public school teacher, and she said, "Don't give anything. Ask the kids why they are not in the school, because the school are open. They provide food for them and activities, and sometimes parents or adults put them to ask money and put them out of school instead to have educate, as you mentioned."
You see, Sonia, this is the organization. Sonia knows about it, that I work with, that I help. Uh, they their purpose is to remove family from under the poverty line, at least to poverty line, because there they will have dignity, they will have sometimes jobs, professions, and if
Exactly.
there is a lot that we do, but one thing that it's the requirement for you to receive the assistance is that the children will be vaccinated and that they will be in school.
Okay.
And so there are families that do not want this structure, because at the end of the day, they add their numbers and say, yeah, if I go to the street, I earn more money. And in this case, many of the people comply, because we are talking about everything starts with the child that is sick, that is in the hospital. So sometimes in this situation, they don't have any other way around. But this is the thing. This is the point. And I thought that as cruel as it may seem, when we say do not give money to children, which is the one that you are more inclined to help, right? Children or elderly people. Elderly, I think, is a different story. We know how hard it is for the elderly, right? But
Mm.
uh, because really, we are teaching them, there is always going to be a naive heart that is going to be providing for me. And
Mm.
in a day in the street, I make more than someone in an honest job with minimum wage. So it's really hard. And this has been a way in so many countries. I remember once being in Belgium, and they said our economy is going down the drain because now we are accepting so many, of the foreigners, and that the government help us have everyone according to the number of children they have. And so they keep on putting children in the world, and getting sometimes, a help that is even above, you know, much more than the minimum wage and everything. And you see, that's why each time more I understand the work of this psychologist, because we have to change the paradigm,
Mhm.
right? And each one of us count.